you probably don't need the super restrictive diet if you have an autoimmune disorder. Here's the truth. Those super restrictive diets create more long-term issues than you probably want to deal with, especially when you're reintroducing foods, because when you start restricting your diet so far, you actually stop producing certain enzymes because you're no longer eating foods that require that enzyme to break it down. So why would your body produce it? And your provider who's put you on that super restrictive diet is literally following a protocol that they got when they were in a classroom instead of working with real life people. 90% of all autoimmune diseases are triggered by a viral load that gets too high. 90%. They're triggered by an infection of some kind. It's typically viral. When you control the viral load and you get the body back in balance, the autoimmune symptoms plummet. And then you do some real actual testing and you find out what people can and can't tolerate when the system is down regulated a bit. And sure, you could do an elimination diet, but an elimination diet looks like, hey, why don't we just eat whole foods and maybe cut out something like one at a time so we understand what it's doing to your system. Let's start with gluten, because that's where everyone starts, because it's one of the fastest ways to heal the lining of the gut. And at the same time, let's give you something simple to do to solve the irritated gut issue. Slippery elm. Simple, right? So then you would move into, okay, we're only eating whole foods. So we're only going to eat a protein source, and we're only going to eat a vegetable or a fruit. And if you're like, nope, I'm going to do this autoimmune paleo, just go carnivore for 6 weeks. Just do it. And then one at a time. And when I say one at a time, add things back in, like, okay, I did that for 6 weeks. My inflammation is super low. I feel okay. I'm going to add in apples today. And I'm going to have a red delicious apple. And I'm not going to have an apple for 3 days. And then I'm going to have a red delicious apple again at the same time I had the red delicious apple 3 days ago. And if that goes okay, red delicious apples are fine. And then I'm going to try a Macintosh apple. And then 3 days later, I'm going to try another Macintosh apple. And if that goes fine, great. Macintosh apples are fine. Do you see how long this is going to take to figure out what foods are irritating your autoimmune disorder? It's the same thing with an autoimmune paleo protocol. It is the same thing with all of those other things. Or instead, you could keep a food journal and you could log your heart rate and wear a continuous glucose monitor. If the continuous glucose monitor spikes and your heart rate spikes after eating a meal, it's probably causing you some irritation and inflammation in your system. If a meal tanks you, makes you so tired you can barely function, it's probably creating inflammation in your system, which is irritating your autoimmune disorder. All of it is going to irritate the autoimmune disorder if you take everything out and you're barely eating anything. And usually, when someone does autoimmune paleo and they stay on that diet for longer than 6 weeks, they start developing a crap ton of food allergies. And it's, again, because your body can't break down what you're now giving it. Please find someone who is actually good at working with autoimmune disorders, because restricting your nutrition plan to the point that you have a bunch of deficiencies is not health. Restricting your nutrition plan to the point that you can never eat anything away from your house, which means you never get to travel, ever. Like, you can't leave your home to have a meal, is not living. You might as well live in a 9x9 cell.